Welcome back, friends. Tonight we travel to a time when fear ran thicker than blood, when hope came in the shape of a long black coat, and when your job description included probably doomed. You've just been hired as a plague doctor in the Middle Ages. Congratulations. Not really. You're about to regret everything. You're not standing in a sterile hospital. You're waking up in a cramped, smoky room above a noisy street in a medieval city. Outside, bells toll ominously. The air is heavy with rot and ash. You cough, instantly regretting inhaling deeply. A rat scurries under your bed. Normal, really. The bigger concern is what that rat might be carrying. Bubonic? Pneumonic? Something new the scholars haven't named yet. You swing your feet down onto the creaky floorboards. Cold. Everything here is cold. The stone walls sweat with moisture. And there, propped against the wall, is your outfit. The infamous costume, the beaked mask, the wide-brimmed hat, the thick leather robe. It looks more like the worst cosplay ever than something designed to save lives. Which, spoiler alert, it isn't. The beak, stuffed with sweet-smelling herbs, is supposed to protect you from the miasma, bad air. People believe the plague spreads through corrupted smells, so shoving rose petals and cinnamon bark up your nose counts as science. You probably won't make it to dinner with logic like that. You slowly pull on the robe, already sweating under its suffocating weight. The leather gloves stick to your skin. The boots, too big, make your feet clomp like hooves. You tie the mask straps behind your head, and the world narrows to 2 eye holes. It smells like mould and rosemary. You might be sweating, or maybe you're already panicking. So before you get too comfortable, hit like and subscribe, but only if I've earned it. No pressure, no hard feelings. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. Always curious where and when you're listening from. Now, go ahead and dim the lights. Maybe curl up with a blanket, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first assignment awaits. A knock at the door, brisk and impatient. It's your handler, a local official who seems both impressed by your courage and confused why you do this. He doesn't make eye contact. Most people won't. You're not seen as a healer. You're a walking omen. As you follow him through the muddy alleyways, you realise this isn't just a sick city. It's a dying one. Smoke curls from pyres. Boards are nailed across doors marked with chalked symbols. Crosses, prayers, the Latin word pestes. Somewhere a child cries. A little further on you hear a cart creaking, someone droning. Bring out your dead. You're not hallucinating, this is your new normal. The handler turns and hands you a piece of parchment. It's a list, names and addresses of the afflicted. You'll be expected to check on them, offer whatever treatment you can, and record their condition, or more likely their death. You try to steady your breath as you approach your first house. It's not even noon, and your heart is already thudding against your ribs like it wants out. The door is slightly ajar. You nudge it open with your cane, a wooden staff, part medical tool, part polite boundary stick. Inside, the smell hits you first. Rot, sweat, fear. 3 figures huddle in the corner of a single-room dwelling. 2 adults, pale and shivering, and a boy, barely conscious. Black swellings, buboes, bulge from his armpits and neck. You want to help. You do. But your training amounts to this. Make them comfortable, record their names, and hope you don't end up like them. You mumble a few Latin prayers, more for yourself than them. You dab some vinegar-soaked cloths on the buboes. It does nothing. You sprinkle dried lavender near the child's head. Still nothing. Historians still argue whether plague doctors ever truly believed in these remedies, or just used them to reassure others and themselves. You offer the family a small packet of herbs. They thank you like you've given them gold. You turn to go, but the mother grabs your sleeve. Her hand trembles. Will he live? You don't answer. You can't. You just nod and leave. It's a lie, but lies are all you have today. Back outside, you sit on the steps for a moment and pull your mask off. Big mistake. The air is thick with smoke and sewage. A rat darts past your foot again. Bold as anything. You remember something ridiculous. How in one part of Europe, people used crocodile dung as sunscreen. That somehow feels less absurd than the plague remedies you're trying now. Across the square, someone collapses in the street. People back away, forming a wide circle, leaving the poor soul twitching and alone. That's your cue. You walk over. The figure is gasping, fingernails blue, eyes rolling. Another victim. You write their name, well, your best guess, into your logbook. Sometimes it feels like that's all you're doing, collecting names for death's ledger. The sun finally begins to dip, and with it, the weight of your new reality settles deeper into your bones. You're not a doctor in any modern sense. You're a symbol. You walk in shadows, offer false hope, and carry a stick more useful for fending off desperate villagers than curing anyone. As you trudge back toward your lodging, the bells toll again. More dead, more bodies to burn. You pass a tavern. Quiet, shuttered. No ale tonight. The city has no thirst for joy, only survival. A cat stares at you from a rooftop, its tail flicking like it's already picked out your grave. You slip inside and unlace your robe with shaking hands. It's only been one day, and you're already wondering what it'll feel like when the fever hits you. Not if, just when. You sleep like a corpse and wake up feeling worse. Your muscles ache as if you fought a war, which in a way you have. Outside, the morning fog clings to the cobblestones like mouldy wool, and somewhere not far off, a church bell tolls again. Another soul gone. You force down a mouthful of hard bread and stale beer, breakfast of champions. Then with hands that already tremble, you pull the mask back over your face. Every time you do it, it feels heavier. It smells of your breath, dried sweat, and faint traces of rosemary and rot. Today's task? A plague house. It sounds ominous, and it is. The term doesn't just mean a place where someone is sick. No, this is a whole building quarantined and left to fester. Sealed from the outside, a whole family or several trapped inside together waiting to die. You're to go inside and check on them. You walk through narrow alleys, dodging puddles that are suspiciously warm. Pigs and dogs rummage through piles of waste. You pass by a wall daubed in red paint marked with a cross. The door beside it has been nailed shut. Sometimes they lock entire families in, even if only one person is sick. It's containment, medieval style. You don't knock on that door. Finally, you find the right house. Your list says there are 5 inside. You count 3 chalk slashes on the door, a crude warning to keep away. But you're not most people. You're the one they send in. The latch is broken. You push the door with your pest stick and it swings open, slowly. It's dark, too quiet. Dust motes swirl in the light. The smell here is thicker, if that's even possible. Meat, left too long in summer heat. You pull your robe tighter around you, like that'll do anything. Inside, you find the first body slumped by the hearth. A young man, barely out of boyhood. His skin is purple and tight over swollen glands. His eyes stare up, glassy. You check his pulse anyway, like it matters. Further in, a woman lies curled on a straw mat. She groans as you approach. Her lips are cracked, and she's muttering, probably a prayer, though it might be nonsense by now. You dab vinegar water on her lips. She jerks away at the sting. She's still fighting, which is more than you expected. A child coughs from under a bench. You kneel, awkward in your stiff robes, and coax her out. She's burning with fever and whimpers when you touch her forehead with gloved fingers. You hum something under your breath. Not because it'll help, but because it feels human. Historians still argue whether plague doctors ever entered homes this deeply, or if they mostly stayed at the threshold, shouting advice through closed doors. Either way, you're in now, too far in. You light a cone of frankincense from your pouch and wave it around like it's holy water. The thick smoke coils around the room, masking the stench for about 5 seconds. The girl coughs harder. You set the cone down and try to record what you can. 2 dead, 2 living, 1 missing. You find the 5th in the cellar. A man tied to a post. Shirtless, wild-eyed. Someone tried bloodletting, judging by the gashes along his arms. An older remedy, still somehow popular. He growls when he sees you, actually growls. You back up, your pest stick raised. You try to speak, calm him. He lunges. You slam the trapdoor shut and sit on it, heart hammering. You're breathing hard. which is a bad idea in a house like this. After a moment, you scrawl a note on the wall with charcoal. Tied below, caution. It's not exactly professional, but then again, neither is this whole job. As you leave, you toss another herb bundle inside. It lands near the woman's feet. She doesn't even look up. You want to stay. You want to do something more. But what? So you do what plague doctors always do. You write down names. You move on. The sun is barely past noon. You've got more houses to visit, but you're already exhausted. Your feet ache. Your mask itches. You haven't unclenched your jaw in hours. On the way to your next stop, a man stops you. He grabs your sleeve, eyes frantic. "My wife," he says. "She's worse today." "Please." You nod. He insists on leading you himself. You arrive to find a woman lying on a cot near the window, barely breathing. The family has done what they can. Sheets scrubbed, herbs on the sill, but the black swellings are unmistakable. She's nearing the end. You approach, kneel, and take her hand. It's ice cold. The family watches your every move. You reach into your bag and take out a dried lizard. Yes, a lizard. Some think powdered reptile helps draw out the sickness. You place it gently on her stomach, say a prayer, and leave it there. They look at you like you've just summoned an angel. You leave the house knowing it's another death. But they believe you helped, and maybe that's enough. Back on the street, a boy walks past you dragging a dead dog by the tail. You don't ask questions. You see a vendor trying to sell onion necklaces for protection. Another has written miracle salt on a wooden board in sloppy Latin. One woman rubs crushed emeralds on her baby's cheeks. And here you are, walking through it all, like a grim reaper in bird disguise. You pause by a fountain, splash water on your face. A mistake. The water's got bits floating in it, and now your gloves are soaked. You've probably made yourself more vulnerable. Again. You pass by the edge of the market square where 3 gallows stand empty. Not for long. They're not just for criminals now. Some blame foreigners, some blame lepers, some blame plague doctors. You don't stick around to see which. Your last house is oddly quiet. You knock. No answer. You push inside and find only silence. A baby cries in a basket by the hearth. No one else is here. You check the back room. They've all fled. You lean against the doorway. The baby's cries grow louder. You don't know what to do. You're not a midwife. You're barely a doctor. You pick the child up gently, holding it away from your chest. The wails echo off the stone. You wrap it in a fresh cloth and leave it with a neighbour. It's the best you can do. As you walk back to your quarters, your stick feels heavier. You smell like the dead. People part before you in the street. Some cross themselves. One child throws a pebble at your back. You don't look. You trudge up the stairs to your room, drop the mask on the floor and collapse on the straw mattress. You survive the day, but just barely. The next morning starts the same way. Bells, dread, and bread you could chip a tooth on. But today, you're going to familiarise yourself with your tools. The stuff people think gives you power, authority, and protection. Spoiler, it's mostly superstition in fancy packaging. You lay everything out on the rickety wooden table, the Plague Doctor starter pack, a bottle of rosewater vinegar, thought to ward off infection when dabbed on wrists and temples, a leather pouch full of dried herbs and flowers, lavender, rosemary, and juniper berries. It smells nice, but it won't save you. Then there's your cane, also known as the pest stick. It's not just for dramatic flair. You use it to point at things, to lift clothing without touching it, and occasionally to keep overly panicked townsfolk at arm's length. A fringe rumour suggests some doctors used it to check for signs of death by poking, an early form of, "Are you dead?" or just really still. There's also a strange little brass mirror. Some say it reflects bad spirits. Others say you're supposed to angle it to watch your own face for signs of infection. Considering your face is trapped behind a leather mask, it's probably just decorative. But the beaked mask, that's the real star of the show. People see it and think you must know what you're doing. You don't. No one does. The beak's full of fragrant ingredients. Cloves, mint, myrrh, camphor, even crushed ambergris. Yes, the stuff that comes out of a whale. That's how far people are willing to go to avoid a cough. The theory is that the herbs filter out bad air, or miasma, which they believe causes disease. Germ theory is still centuries away. For now, it's all about smells. Historians still argue whether plague doctors truly believed the beak worked, or whether it was just for show, to calm the terrified and let them feel like someone had a plan. Either way, it gives you just enough credibility to walk through the gates of a quarantined city without being stoned on sight. Usually. You also have a few more oddities, a jar of leeches. They're for drawing out bad humours, though you're not quite sure which ones. You used one yesterday on a merchant who asked for the treatment by name. He thanked you, then passed out. Your notebook is probably the most useful thing you own. You're expected to document every visit. Name, symptoms, survival odds, if any. It's meant for the records, but also, let's be honest, it's a bit like your last will and testament. If you die, someone might read it and try to learn from your mistakes. You tuck all your gear back into the black leather satchel. It's bulky and squeaks when you walk, which gives you an air of menace that's honestly not unwelcome. People fear the doctor, but fear means distance, and distance is good. Today, you've been asked to visit a school. Well, what used to be a school. It's been repurposed as a treatment house, and the town council has filled it with those who have no family to care for them. You arrive to find a large room with straw beds lining the walls and moaning echoing off stone. You're greeted by a nun. Her face is covered by a simple cloth, and she speaks softly. They're all children, she says, gesturing to the far side. You steel yourself. Children are the worst part. Not because they're more infected, but because they're more hopeful. Or they were. You check the first child. Her skin is flushed and her breathing shallow. You press your ear to her chest through a layer of cloth. The heart is fast. Too fast. You leave a small cloth of camphor near her head and move on. One boy tries to sit up and smile at you. His teeth are stained with blood. He still offers you a handful of pebbles, like it's treasure. You take it. You drop it in your satchel like a relic. You're here an hour, maybe 2. You lose track. You write names until your fingers ache. You don't offer much more than presents. But for them, even that is rare. A boy tugs on your robe. Do you have the special coin? He asks. The one that heals? You freeze. There's a local myth, one you heard just yesterday, that plague doctors carry enchanted coins pressed by the Pope himself. Some say, if you hold one under your tongue overnight, the fever leaves. You pull a silver coin from your pocket, just a common shilling, and press it into his palm. He holds it like a holy relic. You want it to work. You want something to. You leave the schoolhouse heavier than you entered. The nun gives you a blessing. You nod and walk away, wishing she'd given you something stronger. On your way back, a local apothecary flags you down. He's got new wares. Dried frog skins, he says with a grin. Stick one in each shoe, keeps the plague from crawling up. He's serious, dead serious. You buy one pair, not because you believe, but because you're desperate. You pass by a man selling quarantine wines. He swears a sip each hour keeps the lungs clear. You make a mental note to test that theory later, purely in the name of science, of course. One of your stops is an old woman who refuses to open her door. "No doctor," she shouts. "You bring the sickness." This happens more than you'd think. People fear you're a harbinger. You try talking to her through the door. You promise you won't enter. You promise you just want to check her pulse. Nothing. You leave some herbs tied in a cloth at her doorstep. Maybe she'll take them. Maybe not. But at least you tried. Near sunset, you're called to a house where a midwife is ill. Midwives are precious. Losing one means many others suffer. You hurry. Inside, she's sitting upright but pale as parchment. She greets you by name. "Didn't think I'd see you," she whispers. You ask questions. How long, what symptoms, what treatments she's tried. She smiles weakly. "Everything," she says. "Even the bat's blood." You blink. "Did it help?" She shrugs. "Tasted awful." You wrap her wrists in cloth soaked with vinegar and wine. She winces. Then she chuckles. "Don't worry," she says. "I'll live. Just to spite you." She might, or she might not. Back in your quarters, you remove your gear and set it in a corner. It looks like a pile of battlefield debris. The beak stares at you from the floor. You stare back. You think about the frog skins in your shoes, the coin in that boy's hand, the bat's blood. You realise this job is less about curing and more about pretending. Pretending something can help. pretending you're in control. But the plague doesn't care about your props, and neither does tomorrow. You wake with the taste of ash in your mouth. Not literal ash, at least you hope not. It might just be the air again, thick with chimney smoke, open fires, and something you don't want to name. Another morning, another reminder that you're not in control. But today, you're about to be reminded of just how little people actually know about what's happening. You're summoned to the town square, where a councilman is pacing like he's lost something expensive. He doesn't greet you. He just points toward a small group clustered near a shrine, then mutters, "Do something." You walk over to find a man stretched out on a bench, eyes wild, limbs twitching. His family's surrounding him, shouting suggestions. One says to bleed him, another insists he's possessed, a third wants to douse him in holy water. You try to speak over them. What are his symptoms, you ask? They talk over one another, fever, swelling, screaming in his sleep, seeing ghosts. You nod slowly. That last one's new but not surprising. Hallucinations come with the high fevers. You kneel, press 2 fingers to his neck, pulse like a drum. You ask when the symptoms began. 2 days ago, someone says. After the eclipse, another adds. There it is. Welcome to the cutting edge of 14th century science. You're not just dealing with medical symptoms, you're also fighting the stars. Astrology, alchemy, and the mysterious balancing of bodily humours. That's your medical handbook. The dominant theory right now is that the plague is caused by an imbalance in the 4 humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. If that sounds like a gross cocktail menu, well, it kind of is. The goal of medicine is to balance these fluids, which means all sorts of delightful treatments. Purging, sweating, bloodletting, vomiting. Sometimes all 4. You've been trained in all of them, of course, but whether they work. Historians still argue whether plague doctors actually believed in the humoral system or just followed protocol to look like they knew what they were doing. You pull out your lancet. The family stares. You explain that letting a small amount of blood might release the fever. The man moans. You prick a vein in his arm. A slow ooze begins. No lightning strikes. No miraculous recoveries. Just more blood. You wrap his arm and move on. They thank you like you saved him, though he's probably worse off than when you arrived. Back in your satchel, you've got more questionable tools. There's a wax tablet inscribed with a planetary diagram, Mars rising in Scorpio or some such. A monk gave it to you, swearing it could channel healing forces. You've never seen it help, but people like seeing you hold it. Sometimes you wave it in the air for effect. Next stop, the monastery infirmary. They've requested your help for 2 monks with high fever. You find them lying in neat rows, groaning quietly. The head friar insists the illness came after eating spoiled fish. That, or perhaps impure thoughts. He offers you a bowl of garlic soup as protection. You decline. You can't taste anything through the mask anyway. You check the monks. The signs are the same. Swollen lymph nodes, blackened fingers. You try a new trick. A paste made of onion, butter, and crushed pigeon. You're supposed to apply it to the buboes, then hope for divine intervention. It smells like regret. One monk manages to murmur, "I had a dream. The Virgin told me the stars are angry." You nod. You've heard worse. Across town, a barber surgeon sets up a street show. He's offering live demonstrations. You stop to watch. He ties a man to a bench and explains he's about to drain the evil humours. He slices an arm open, sprinkles the wound with a powder made from ground emeralds and horse manure. The crowd applauds. You leave before the man faints. Later, a wealthy merchant insists on a house visit. You're escorted through guarded doors and up marble stairs. Inside, he sits propped on a velvet chair, sipping wine. He doesn't look sick, just scared. "I've heard Jupiter and Saturn aligned last week," he says. "My wife swears that's what started this." You assure him that planetary alignments are outside your control, but you can offer him a talisman. You pull out a brass medallion inscribed with nonsensical Latin. He pays you in silver. You leave wondering who the real patient is. On the way home, you stop at a makeshift hospital tent. A young healer is stirring something over a fire. She explains she's trying a new method, boiling mint, vinegar and tar together, and inhaling the steam. You try it. Your eyes water instantly. You cough so hard you almost remove your mask. You thank her anyway. If nothing else, it clears your sinuses. Back in your room, you examine your little shrine of failed theories. A bottle of theriac, a 64-ingredient remedy dating back to Roman times, includes opium, viper flesh, and cinnamon. Tastes like burnt licorice and despair. You've taken a sip once just to say you did. You hallucinated a horse talking to you, then vomited into your boots. You have a sack of dried rose petals. Some doctors believe scattering them around the floor wards off plague-bearing spirits. Others think it just masks the stench of decay. A new pamphlet arrived this morning, hand-copied by a desperate scholar. It claims the disease is God's punishment for sins of excess. His advice: pray fast and flog yourself. You file it under not helpful. There's a scroll by your bed titled Lunar Influences on the Spleen. You meant to read it. Instead, you sleep on it. It doesn't help. You lie down, mask on the floor beside you. You stare at the ceiling, counting the cracks. You think about the man on the bench, the monks in the infirmary, the boy with the coin. Nothing you've done today was based on real understanding. It's all guesswork. Desperate measures wrapped in ritual. You're a puppet with a stick, dancing through someone else's idea of science. And yet, you'll do it again tomorrow, because people need to believe in you, in something. You'd think by now people would see you and feel comforted, like some kind of dark angel of mercy. But the truth is, most just see death walking on two legs. And death, unfortunately, looks like you. It begins in the square, as most days do. You're passing through on your way to another round of house visits when someone spits near your feet. You pretend not to notice. A little girl clutches her mother's skirts as you walk by, whispering, "Don't look or he'll curse you." Charming. A baker across the road crosses himself twice. Then he throws out an entire tray of rolls that were cooling when you passed. He clearly thinks even your shadow carries sickness. You're not just unwelcome, you're dangerous. There's a term for it now: plague curse. A growing number of villagers believe the plague doesn't follow you. It arrives with you. The moment you show up in a street, a house, a chapel, someone gets sick. Maybe they were already sick. But to most people, that's a distinction without a difference. Today you're summoned to the house of a merchant who died overnight. Nothing unusual about that, except now his neighbours are screaming that you're to blame. They say he was fine until you came by 3 days ago. You try to explain calmly that he already had symptoms then, but they're not listening. One man throws a clod of mud at your chest. Another points a shaking finger and yells, "He walks with the devil's beak!" A woman screams something in a dialect you don't recognise. You think it includes the word witch. You step back, slowly. This has happened before. It always starts the same way: fear, anger, superstition. But once, just once, it ended with someone swinging a shovel at your head. So now, you keep your stick ready. You retreat down an alley, heart racing. You press your back to a wall and try to catch your breath. A stray cat scuttles by and hisses at you. Even the animals hate you. You decide to detour through the churchyard. The bishop there at least doesn't mind you. He says you're part of God's plan. You don't ask for details. Today, though, even the church is on edge. The altar boys shrink away as you enter. One mutters something about Mark of Cain. A robed friar stops you near the vestry. He looks you up and down. They say you talk to corpses, he says. Do you? You blink. Only when I'm losing sleep. He doesn't laugh. You leave. Back outside, you overhear a town crier announcing that plague deaths are up. Again. 33 just this week. And now they're blaming foreigners, travellers, and yes, plague doctors. One mayor in a nearby town has even outlawed the beaked mask, calling it a symbol of doom. You'd switch jobs if there were anywhere to go. You visit another home, just doing your job. A woman opens the door, sees you, and slams it. Then she throws salt through the cracks under the door. To keep the death spirit out, she says from behind it. You sigh, scratch a note in your log and move on. Next, you're pulled into a family dispute. 2 brothers are arguing over their mother, who lies feverish in bed. One wants her treated. The other insists she's tainted and must be left outside the walls. You try to mediate, but they talk over you. One brother grabs your arm. You decide, he says. Is she already dead? She's breathing. Barely. Her eyes flutter when you speak. You do your best. You dress her wounds. You leave herbs. You speak Latin prayers. They watch you like judges in a trial. When you finish, they don't thank you. They just nod grimly. She'll either live or die. But whichever it is, they'll say it happened because of you. Historians still argue whether plague doctors were more feared than respected, but the evidence is clear. You're not seen as a saviour. You're an omen. It's worse with children. You used to wave at them in the streets. Some smiled, some ran. Now they don't even look at you. One boy threw a chicken bone at your mask yesterday and shouted, "Go back to hell, Crow Man!" You try to laugh it off, but it stays with you. Later that day you enter a house that was supposedly empty. You find a woman in hiding, breathing hard, clutching a rosary. She begs you not to mark her name. "I'm not sick," she says. "Please, if they see you came here, they'll burn my bed." You freeze. You've heard of this. Some neighbourhoods, so afraid of the plague, torch belongings of anyone who's been visited by a doctor, even healthy people. You promise to write nothing. You hand her a coin and leave without another word. Walking home, you pass a group of boys burning something in the street. It's a straw effigy. You recognise the beaked mask. It's you. They cheer as it collapses in flames. You stop by the city gate to speak with the guards. They ask you how bad it's getting. You tell them, honestly, it's getting worse. Bodies are being dumped at night now. People are too afraid to ask for help. The fear is spreading faster than the illness. One guard asks, "How do you sleep knowing they blame you?" You think for a moment. Better than I would if I believed them. He laughs once, then sobers. Watch your back. Back in your room, you hang the robe by the fire. The mask's eyes catch the light, glinting eerily. You sit in silence, listening to the wind outside. Somewhere, someone is coughing. Somewhere, someone is calling your name in fear. You wonder how long before someone locks you in a plague house. You wouldn't be the first. You stare at the mask. It stares back. You awaken to a knock. Not the usual hurried rapping of fear-struck townsfolk. It's slower, more deliberate. When you open the door, you find a young man in fine clothes and silk gloves, standing awkwardly like someone who doesn't belong on these streets. You recognise the crest on his cloak, one of the city's wealthier families. "You've been requested," he says without meeting your eyes. "There's been a death." You nod, gather your gear, and follow him through winding alleys into the district you're rarely invited to. These are homes with marble columns, private gardens, and actual glass windows. Here, they still pretend the world isn't on fire. You enter through a side gate, ushered quickly inside to avoid alarming the neighbours. The house is fragrant with incense. Someone's trying very hard to mask the truth. They lead you to an upstairs chamber, where a body lies on a silk-covered bed. The woman must have been beautiful in life. Her hands are folded neatly over her chest, wrapped in gold thread. "She died in the night," says the butler. "We require confirmation for documentation." You do your job, check for breath, pulse, pupil response. Nothing. You gently lift the sheets and note the telltale signs. Dark splotches beneath the skin, swollen lymph nodes along the neck. It was plague, without question. "Will the physician's seal be sufficient?" the butler asks. You nod, scribble the details in your logbook and prepare to leave. But the young noble from earlier stops you. "My father, he wants to speak with you." He leads you to the study. Inside, the lord of the house is pacing. His beard is immaculately trimmed, but his eyes are bloodshot. "She was my daughter," he says. "Healthy 3 days ago, now gone." You offer condolences. He waves them away. "I want to pay you to stay here," he says. "Examine the rest of my household, treat them, protect them. You'll be well compensated." It sounds reasonable, generous even. But then he adds, "Until this is over, you do not leave." You pause. A gilded cage is still a cage. You politely decline, citing other obligations. His lips tighten. He offers more money, then more again. You hold your ground. He looks like he might order his guards to restrain you. Instead, he says, "Then I suggest you work quickly. I will not lose another." You spend the next 2 hours examining his household. Servants, relatives, kitchen staff. Most show no symptoms. A few have light fevers. You distribute herbs, wrap cloths, offer diluted vinegar rinses. half prayer, half performance. Before you leave, he hands you a leather pouch that jingles. For now, he says, in case you change your mind. You pocket it, not because you want it, but because refusing would make you suspicious. Back in the street, the contrast hits you like a wave. Here, people die without silk beds or incense. They die in doorways, on straw pallets, beside empty bowls. No one offers you a pouch of coins. No one offers you a meal. You're summoned to a slum near the city's edge. It's your third visit to this family. The mother is gone now, dead in the night. The father is coughing. The daughter doesn't speak anymore, just stares. You try to offer comfort, but your voice sounds hollow. The mask doesn't help. On your way out, the father grabs your sleeve. You promised, he rasps. You said she might recover. You don't correct him. You never promised. But grief rewrites memories. In the marketplace, you pass a notice nailed to a post. It's a city decree, signed by the mayor and council. All plague doctors to be paid upon completion of service if still living. It's almost funny. That's the truth of it. You don't get paid unless you survive your contract. Some doctors are offered homes, pensions, even gold, on paper. But in practice, many never live long enough to collect. And even if they do, towns often find convenient excuses to withhold payment. Historians still argue whether these contracts were ever meant to be honoured, or just bait for the desperate. You visit a city clerk who offers another contract. A village downriver needs a doctor. High pay, immediate travel. You ask the obvious question, how many survived their last physician? The clerk shrugs. No one knows. You walk away. Later, in a tavern, the few that still serve, you overhear two men arguing over your profession. One says plague doctors are heroes. The other says you profit from suffering. You sip your watered-down wine in silence. You're called to a bakery next. The baker's apprentice is pale and shaking. His master insists he's just tired. You see the swelling under his jaw. He's not tired. He's dying. The master begs you not to say it aloud. If word gets out, no one will buy from us. You nod. You treat the boy quietly. You leave the diagnosis unspoken. You're not just a doctor anymore. You're a negotiator, a secret keeper, a liability wrapped in leather and hope. That night you sit on the floor of your room, coins spread in front of you. You count them slowly. 27 silvers, enough to leave, if you wanted. But where would you go? You remember a fellow plague doctor you met weeks ago. Young, confident, clean robes, said he'd been promised land and a title after this. You heard he caught the fever last Thursday. No one has seen him since. You wonder what happened to his contract. Probably burned with him. You hold one of your coins up to the candlelight. It gleams for a second, then dulls, like everything here. You pocket the coin and lie down. The room creaks. You imagine the nobleman's house, the velvet bedding, the incense. You wonder if it smells better to die there. But death doesn't care about gold, and neither does your next patient. The bell rings before dawn, low and heavy, echoing through the fog. That bell only means one thing: a mass death. You're already dressed. You didn't sleep much. Again. The mask, waiting beside your bed like a silent accusation, goes on first. You stuff it with fresh herbs, your daily ritual of almost comfort. Then the robe, the gloves, the stick. You're not a man anymore. You're the symbol they need you to be. Your first visit isn't a house. It's a dilemma. A runner meets you outside a chapel. He's breathless, eyes wide, and blurts, "There's a situation." You follow him to a modest home at the edge of the city. Inside, 5 children lie huddled in a single room. 4 are coughing. 1 is still. Their mother died the day before. No one's come to take her body. You kneel by the youngest, a girl with tear-streaked cheeks and a fevered brow. She reaches up, touches your mask's beak, and asks, "Are you the angel?" You say yes. What else can you say? You do what little you can. Wrap them in cloth soaked with vinegar, leave crushed herbs near their heads, and whisper a prayer under your breath that even you don't believe. But that's not the dilemma. It's next door. A carriage waits, with a liveried servant beside it. He bows and offers a scroll, marked with the seal of Lord Vincer, the same noble whose daughter you visited last week. The message is short and written in expensive ink. Urgent. Come at once. We'll pay double. You glance back at the children. They're all still breathing. For now. You have a choice. Stay and comfort the poor, the doomed, or ride to a cushioned seat beside wealth and influence where you might actually save someone, or at least be seen saving someone. One action buys a favour, the other buys silence. You hesitate only a second. You hand the servant a reply, in 1 hour. You go back inside and spend the next 59 minutes doing what you can, propping them up, speaking softly, checking their pulses again and again, like that'll change something. You leave behind a vial of your best herbs and instruct the neighbour how to use them. She listens carefully, blesses you, and gives you a coin she clearly can't afford. Then you go. The carriage clatters over cobbles and out of the smoke-choked quarter. The air grows clearer, richer. The roads are lined with trimmed hedges. You hate how good the cushions feel. At the estate the mood is quieter than before. Too quiet. They bring you to a study where Lord Vincer sits pale-faced, hands trembling. "It's my steward," he says. "He's been with me 30 years. You must save him." You nod, do the examination, follow the motions. The steward is worse than you expected. Fevered, delirious, buboes forming already. You give him the standard remedies, cloths, prayers, herbs. You even try one of the nobleman's suggestions, placing a gold coin under the tongue. You resist the urge to roll your eyes. Lord Vincer watches you. "He's the closest thing I've had to a brother." You nod again. You say he's stable, even though you're not sure. You leave with another pouch of coins. Outside on the ride back, you stare at the city skyline. Smoke rises in lazy tendrils. It smells like burning wood and flesh. You stop at the children's house. The smallest one didn't make it. The neighbour meets your eyes and says nothing. She just nods once. It's not accusation. It's not forgiveness either. It's just fact. You leave before you say something stupid like, "I'm sorry." Sorry doesn't carry weight here. On your way back to your quarters, a man steps into your path. He's ragged, fevered and furious. "You pick who lives," he growls. "Don't you?" You don't answer. Your silence speaks volumes. He spits at your boots and disappears into the alley. Historians still argue whether plague doctors had real agency, whether they chose who to save or simply followed orders. You're starting to realise it's neither. You do what you can, when you can, and hope the rest doesn't haunt you. That night, you're summoned again. This time by a woman with a sack of coins and a secret. Her husband is a council member. He's sick, very sick, and she doesn't want anyone to know. You slip through the back entrance, treat him as best you can, and swear you won't record his name. She hands you 10 silver pieces. One falls to the floor and rolls under the bed. You leave it there. The next morning a priest corners you after Mass. Yes, you still attend, mostly out of habit. "I hear you visit the rich more often than the poor," he says. You respond, "The poor don't have servants who run fast." He doesn't smile. You finish your rounds that day numb. A woman begs you to save her sister, who's vomiting blood. You try, knowing it's already too late. A merchant offers to triple your fee if you just check on his son. You do, knowing it won't help. Later, at the makeshift morgue, you help a gravedigger identify bodies. He stares at your robes and says, "You must feel powerful." You look at the cart full of corpses. "No," you say, "I feel numbered." At home, you lay out your coins. One pile for rich clients, one for the poor who gave you what little they had. One for promises not yet fulfilled. You stare at them until the candle burns low, and in the dark, you think about that girl who asked if you were the angel. You still don't know the answer. You wake to the sound of distant chanting. It's coming from the cathedral. Again. You already know what it means. Another mass burial. You stare at the ceiling for a moment, counting the cracks. 14. One more than yesterday. Probably nothing. Probably. After dressing, you make your way toward the southern edge of the city. You've been asked to help with funeral rites, not for one person, for dozens. As you approach the churchyard, you see the line. Bodies wrapped in cloth, lined up on makeshift stretchers, some covered in blankets, others just rags. There are no coffins. Wood is too expensive now. They burn what they can, or bury quickly and hope the smell stays downwind. The priest greets you with a forced smile. We ran out of incense yesterday, he says, and the holy water's thinning. He gestures to the pile. You nod, heart already sinking. Your job today isn't to save anyone, it's to help mark the end. Write names in the book, make sure no one buries the living again. That happened once last week. A man woke up mid-ceremony, screaming. 2 gravediggers fainted. No one wants a repeat. Your beaked mask draws stares, as always. But here, near death, people tolerate you, at least for now. You step up to the first body, a girl. Couldn't be more than 10. You check for pulse, warmth, breath, nothing. A smear of dried blood near her mouth tells you enough. You write her name, if known, in your log. On to the next. A man with a missing hand. A woman still clutching a dried rosary. A young monk, face frozen in prayer. You touch none of them without gloves. But still, you feel it. Each name a stone in your gut. Then you reach the one with no name. No one to claim him. Just a naked body and a whispered guess. Found in the alley near the tanner's shop. You give him a name anyway. Something simple. Something human. There's a pause as the bell tolls. Then movement at the cathedral door. A procession, but not a funeral. Relic bearers. A group of robed men march in solemnly, carrying a glass box. Inside, what they claim is the thumbone of a saint. Maybe St. Sebastian, maybe not. It's hard to tell through the layers of lace and legend. They say it wards off plague. They say it heals the dying. They say a lot of things. You step back as they pass. Some of the mourners kneel. Others reach out to touch the reliquary, then their hearts. A few whisper prayers. One gravedigger just spits in the dirt. Another one? He mutters to you. Didn't the last relic get stolen? You nod. By someone who got the plague 2 days later. He snorts. Saints must be getting sloppy. Historians still argue whether these relics had any real effect, or if they were just comforting fictions, fragments of hope to grasp in the darkness. You don't argue either way. Hope, real or not, is in short supply. The priest invites you to assist with the service. You nod and take your place beside the altar. The usual prayers are said, though the Latin is rushed. They have to move fast, the bodies are piling up. Later, you help escort the dead to the burial ground. It's not consecrated anymore. The bishop declared it spiritually saturated, which is a poetic way of saying full. Now they just dig deeper. You pass rows of open pits. You stop at one. You look down. It's already got 5 bodies. Soon, it will have 10. There's no ceremony here. Just dirt. And silence. You help lower a body. Your gloves slip slightly. You nearly fall in. Close call. Back in the chapel courtyard, you take a moment to breathe. A child offers you a wilted flower. You don't know if it's meant as thanks or superstition, but you tuck it into your satchel anyway. Then you're summoned again. This time to the abbey. They're keeping something quiet. You enter a side chamber, cloaked in shadows and incense. A monk lies on a stone slab, not dead, not quite, fevered, mumbling in Latin and French and something else. A mix of prayer and panic. He grips your wrist with surprising strength. The relic is a lie, he gasps. It's pig bone. Just pig bone. You blink. That would explain a lot. The head abbot dismisses it as delirium. The fever speaks, not the man, he insists, but you can see the doubt in his eyes. Still, the relic will stay on display. Pilgrims are coming, and they bring coin. You return to your quarters that evening exhausted. Your boots are soaked. Your hands ache. You still smell of burial dirt and basil. You light a candle and sit beside your logbook. You flip back through pages, names, dozens of names. A few marked recovered, most not. You find the name of the girl from the morning. You add a note. Buried beside her brother. It's small, but it's something. Then you hear it. A scratching. You freeze. It's coming from the wall. You grab your stick and push open the loose panel. A rat darts out. You swing miss, and it vanishes under your bed. You sit on the floor, laughing, more out of exhaustion than humour. Remember when you feared rats because of what they carried? Now you just fear becoming one, small, skittering, unnoticed. You climb into bed, massively resting by your side like a sleeping animal. The relic was fake. The saint's bone was pig. But the sickness? The sickness is very real. The storm hits overnight. Rain hammers the city, washing grime into the gutters. soaking everything it can't drown. You wake to a drafty room and the unmistakable scent of wet wool and mildew. Your robe, hung to dry too close to the window, is damp again. Great. Just what a body wrapped in disease needs. Mould spores. The streets are mostly empty as you step out, boots squelching through puddles filled with things you'd rather not identify. You've been summoned to the pest ward, an improvised hospice on the edge of the merchant quarter. They started building it a week ago using scraps from the Butcher's Guild. Already it's over full. You pass a small square where a boy sits on a barrel, swinging his legs and watching you like you're a travelling ghost. He doesn't speak, just holds your gaze as if daring you to vanish. You don't. You reach the ward by mid-morning. It's little more than a hall of wood and canvas, patched by tarps and old market cloth. Inside, the air is damp and metallic. It smells like rust and rain-soaked rot. You step in, and the noise greets you. Moaning, coughing, whispers. Some people are still speaking prayers. Others are just murmuring to no one. A woman greets you at the entrance. Her apron is stained, her eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "You're the third doctor today," she says flatly. "The other two left before sundown, couldn't stomach it." You nod, set down your bag and get to work. Bed after bed, patient after patient. Some fevered, some quiet, some already too far gone to notice you. You try what you can, change bandages, offer cloths soaked in cooled wine, a few herbal compresses, prayers. One man begs you to sit with him, just for a moment. You do. The woman from the door comes over again. "One of them died in the night. We couldn't move him. No room in the cart." She points to the far corner. There he is. Stiff, limbs curled inward like a dried flower. A fly crawls across his lip. You help her wrap him, carry him out in the rain, and place him with the others behind the ward. The cart hasn't come yet. It's not late. It's just full. Back inside, you keep going. A young man grabs your robe. "You'll stay tonight, won't you?" You hesitate. That wasn't part of the plan. You're supposed to rotate out after sunset, get a few hours rest. But the look in his eyes, he's not asking for treatment. He's asking not to die alone. So you stay. You light candles, you keep logs, you whisper calming words, you dab foreheads with vinegar rags that have long lost their sting. Hours pass. You watch two people slip away before your eyes, one peacefully, the other thrashing and gasping. You close their eyes with gloved fingers. The woman who's been helping you breaks down and sobs beside the door. You offer her water. It's all you have. At one point you feel dizzy, you think it's exhaustion. You sit on a stool in the corner, head resting against the wall. You don't remove the mask. You never do in here. You drift for a while, not quite asleep, not quite awake. And then you wake suddenly. It's dark, silent, too silent. You stagger up. Most of the candles have burned down. One flickers near the threshold. You do a head count. Someone is missing. You check each cot. Then you find him. The young man, the one who asked you to stay, is gone. You find him collapsed just outside the tent, face down in the mud. He probably tried to reach the latrine, or maybe he just wanted to see the sky. You carry him back inside, wrap him, and lay him on the floor beside the dead. His hand brushes yours on the way down. You pause. A chill runs up your arm. Is it just rainwater? Just nerves? You check your gloves. No rips, no breaks. But now you're thinking about it. Every patient you touched, every damp cloth, every time you leaned too close to whisper comfort. Historians still argue whether plague doctors actually stayed overnight with patients. Some claim they only visited by day. Others suggest they had to stay. Too few to replace them. Too many sick to leave alone. But whether it was duty or accident, it's clear. Staying meant risk. You slump in the corner again, hands trembling. You look at your stick, at your bag, at your mask. All of it. Ridiculous. All of it. Nothing. You fall asleep against the wall, half sitting, half slumped. Your back aches. Your legs feel like stone. At some point, you dream you're floating in water, drifting through blackness, hands reaching for you but never touching. You wake just before dawn. You're cold. Everything hurts. Your mouth tastes of copper and cloth. You check yourself. No fever. Not yet. No swelling. Not yet. But something's off. You leave the pest ward just as the morning bell tolls. Rain still drizzles from the roofs. The world is grey and blurred and slightly too loud. You walk home without speaking to anyone. On the way, a small dog follows you. At first you ignore it, but it keeps pace, trot, 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 tail wagging. You finally stop and look down. You don't know what I am, you say to it. It sits, wags again. You toss it a piece of hard bread from your satchel. It takes it gently, then trots off. The most normal interaction you've had in days. Back in your quarters, you peel off your robe. You hang it, soaked again. You remove your gloves carefully. Your fingers are pruned and pale. You sit, you breathe, and then you feel it. A tightness in your chest. Just faint, but you feel it. It starts like a whisper. Not pain, just pressure. You tell yourself it's nothing. Rain-soaked lungs, bad sleep, too much vinegar vapour maybe. You stretch, roll your shoulders, take a few deep breaths. That's when you notice the cough. Just one, dry and subtle. But it echoes in your chest in a way that feels wrong. You try to ignore it. After all, you're the plague doctor. If you panic at every throat tickle, you won't last a week. Then again, you already have. You head out into the street. The bells are tolling again. They always are now. The same boy from yesterday watches you from the stoop, swinging his legs, a little less energetically this time. You nod to him. He doesn't nod back. You're expected at the infirmary today. A noblewoman's cousin was brought in overnight. High profile, high risk, high reward if you handle it with discretion. You arrive to find the cousin fevered and barely coherent, her skin already blotched. A servant whimpers in the corner. You examine the patient, but your hands feel sluggish. You ask questions, but your voice sounds muffled in your own ears. You press a cloth to her head, and her eyes flutter open. She stares directly into your mask. "You look tired," she whispers. Then she closes her eyes and doesn't open them again. You stagger back. The servant lunges forward in grief, wailing. You want to console her, but you can barely stand upright. You leave quickly. Outside, the sun stabs your eyes like daggers. Your stomach flips and you lean against a wall. No one approaches, not even the rats. Back in your quarters, you sit on your straw bed and slowly unlace your robe. Your hands tremble. You pull off your gloves and stare at your palms. No marks, no swelling. Yet. You lean forward, press your elbows to your knees, and breathe. Cough. Again. You reach for your logbook. You open to a fresh page. The ink runs slightly. Your hand is sweating. You write. Symptoms. Chest tightness, mild fever, dry cough. Patient. Self. You stop. Stare at the word. It takes a full minute to move on. You try to distract yourself with routine. You clean your tools, you change the herbs in your mask, you grind fresh lavender, you boil wine, but none of it helps. Your body is already drifting, heavier, looser, like your limbs are negotiating whether to stay attached. And that's when the bell rings outside. It's not a funeral bell, it's the doctor summons bell. You know what that means. Someone high up, someone important, someone who must be saved. You hesitate. You are not well. You shouldn't go. But if you refuse, if they suspect you're infected, they'll isolate you. Or worse. So you go. The home belongs to the mayor's family. You've been here once before, delivering herbs to a nervous wife. This time, it's the mayor himself. He's on a couch, wrapped in blankets, sweating through his silk shirt. His daughter paces nearby, red-eyed. "He won't eat," she says. "He won't speak." You nod because your voice is hoarse now. You kneel beside him and take his pulse. His skin is clammy. His eyes roll back briefly. You unbutton his collar and see it, right there under the jawline. A swelling, fresh, angry. You gently replace the cloth and stand. "He's strong," you rasp. "He needs rest." Your voice startles her. It's not your voice anymore. It's something lower, fainter, rough. You leave quickly. As you step outside, the world tilts, just a little. You grab the stone wall and gasp. The street is almost empty. It's midday, but you feel like you're walking through dusk. You take the long way home, not because it's safer, because you don't want to see anyone. At your door, you pause. The mask. It's still on. You reach up slowly, you untie it, and for the first time in days you breathe unfiltered air. It's a mistake. The air smells like wet leather and ash, but worse, it's sharp. You cough again, this one deeper. You drop the mask. It hits the floor with a dull thud and the herbs spill out like dry confetti. You sit. You light a candle. You try to write again, but your hand shakes too hard. You set the quill down. You lie back on your bed, eyes open. You count the ceiling cracks again. 16. 2 new ones. You smile faintly. There's a knock at your door. You don't move. Another knock. Then silence. No one enters. You drift in and out. The world narrowing to candlelight, shadows, and the sound of your own heartbeat. Soft as drum beats in wet earth. Someone will come tomorrow. They'll find the robe hanging by the fire, the stick leaning near the bed, the logbook open, waiting for a name. Yours. And now, dear friend, your journey ends, slowly, gently, drifting away like smoke rising from an extinguished candle. Outside the pest ward, the rain quiets to a soft mist. The cobblestones, still slick from last night's storm, reflect faint candlelight from shuttered windows. You hear no bells now, just the occasional drip of water, the whisper of wind through alleyways, and the hush of a city resting between tragedies. The beaked mask sits idle on a table, its hollow eyes no longer watching. The robes, heavy and stained with 100 days' worth of ash and worry, hang still on a wooden peg, the air around them calm for the first time in weeks. In the distance, a child murmurs in her sleep, dreaming of angels in long coats, unaware of just how human those angels truly were. You, brave traveller, have reached the end of your watch. The fire has burned low, the pages have closed, and whatever burden you carried into this evening, you've now laid it gently beside the resting place of the plague doctor. Breathe deeply, let it go. Tomorrow will be another kind of day, but for now, let yourself drift. Let your mind soften. Let sleep wrap you in a better kind of silence.